Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Katie Hemphill and I'm so happy to be here with you today to weave together some conversation and most importantly to be in practice in this embodiment space, in this meditative space, but a meditative space that is not about being stuck up in our heads, but being present, so fully embodied. I just got off of a circle that I'm holding, this New Earth circle that I get to hold, facilitate with this beautiful, powerful, magical group of women. And I'm so excited to weave some of that energy into this space with you today so that you can be in your own practice, a practice that has everything to do with, yes, being present in a way where you get to be grounded in felt present connection as the very physical human being that you are. You know, it's this conversation that I have all the time. It might be the number one talking point that I speak to, and it came up again today. And I want to share this with you. You know, this idea of, you know, whatever words we want to put to any sort of spiritual path, new earth space, any sort of new agey movement that, you know, I've witnessed my whole life, which in a way is a big reason I've stayed away from it. You know, finding myself as a teacher in this space, but coming from a space, really being a stand against this trend so loud in our world that has everything to do with disembodiment of, shall we say, living from the head up, from disconnecting from self. And we see this all over the place, right? We see this in a lot of religion, right? Religion teaching not to trust self, not to trust your body, not to trust those inputs that we get from our bodies, right? Disconnecting from body. Now we see that in traditional religions. I can speak to also this same idea, just a different flavor of it that I was taught in science and engineering, which is my background, right? Growing up in a world focused on science, focused on technology. Again, same idea here, just different flavor of it. This disconnection of self, of not trusting the feelings, the intuitions, the insights that, you know, and feeling to this, that arise from within, right? That rise up. So you can feel into that. You know, maybe there's some memories or some hits of like, oh yeah, that, you know, that thing that I was told not to trust, whether it's your heart or whether it's emotion or whether it's intuition, right? And taking a moment to think for yourself, like where in your life, you know, if you're like most other modern human beings, there's probably a whole list of all the ways you were brought up being taught not to trust self. And by self, I mean our physical selves as the human bodies of the human beings that we are. So again, speaking to this kind of, in one way we can speak to it as a spiritual evolution, but it doesn't just have to live in that space. Again, it's the same thread that we see in science, we see in tech, this like disembodiment, this like, ugh, it sucks to be a human in a human body, you know, these like dense human bodies, they have all these problems, there's such, you know, that like ugh kind of energy that makes us want to escape, to get away from being present, alive, in felt connection to reality in these human bodies that we are. So feeling into that. And, you know, just letting it percolate in your mind. Like, where have you been taught this? Like, actively taught to disconnect? Where do you experience this in your own lived life? This want to, this need to disconnect from self. And maybe it's a religious background. Maybe it's an academic background. Maybe it's a scientific background. Maybe it's certain health issues like physical pains in your body that have brought you into the same space. So now feeling into this, being present to this. And now I want us to be present with the worlds that we currently live in. Right? I know humans, we're diverse, we have different beliefs, we have different views. But there's one commonality that I know holds us into connection these days, that is a discontent with reality. Like, we got a lot of problems, got a lot of challenges, so much suffering, so many woes alive in our world right now. And yeah, our minds can start going wild with different explanations of why that is. But staying away from that, being present to the simple truth of what our reality is right now. Being present to it, feeling it in your body, as well as, letting your mind do what it likes to do, bring in all these different images, memories, ideas, conversations, all the way our minds light up with activity. So let your mind do that. And being present physically in your body as you feel into that reality. How does it feel present in your body as we sit in the space of where we are in our world right now? And if you're like most people, if you're like me, sitting in this space, sitting in this energy, there is a loud signal that comes through that's like, something is not right. Many somethings are not right. Many somethings are off. Many problems need to be solved. Many challenges need to be faced head on. Just another moment to sit in that. So much of our work here together is about sitting in it. We have this tendency in our world to, get an insight and race on to the next action step. You get the insight, you get the, and then you're racing off to the next thing. You have the idea, you have the answer, you have the judgment, and now you're racing into the next action step. And when we do that, we're just caught up on this wheel that's turning, this reactive wheel, right? So the core of our work here is taking time, and it takes time. Something our world doesn't like to do is to give time to things, to create space for things. So the practice here, to step off that wheel, to step off that reactive programming. Doing this with me here, right? Grounding in, finding yourself present in your body. Breathing into this moment, feeling this moment, holding space for this moment. What is present in this moment, and feeling it. Letting it sink in. What is here to be felt, to be witnessed, to be known in this moment. Feeling it, receiving it, letting it sink in. So what is here to be felt, to be witnessed, to be known in this moment? Maybe you get a clear something in your mind. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's really just felt and known in that way. And can we step out of the space of judgment, that one way of knowing, to know something with clarity in your mind, in words and equations, is better than knowing something as a deep, felt knowing. because this is the path, this is the embodiment path. This is, coming back to where we started this conversation, this path out of this hellish world we've created, with all its challenge, with all its problems, with all its divisiveness, with all its just hate-filled action that we put out in the world. Right? Our path out of this space is a path of coming back into presence. But again, not that head up, neck up presence where we're disconnected and we're just present living in our heads. But we're present in this felt connection to our bodies. And there's a reason why this is powerful, because it's only when we are in felt present connection to our bodies that we can actually fully be in felt present connection to reality. Right? And this is the path that I could speak for the next 10, 20, 80 hours about, which is why we have a whole channel and a Substack and Instagram and all these different places to show up and speak to this, what this path is. But it's a path of returning to self and all the different, characteristics of self, recognizing that, our ideas of self that we value are so head up in our world. How smart can we be up in our heads? How good at problem solving can we be up in our heads? How, what amount of work can we put out from this like robotic space, from this very machine-like space, which, yes, has its value, has immense value, but it's like one teeny tiny sliver of all the characteristics, of all the gifts, of all the wonders that are here to be experienced as we are fully connected into all the different parts of self. So yes, how smart can you be in this thinking, analytical, problem-solving, challenge-facing way? And how connected are you into how you feel the world, how you breathe with the world, how you intuit what's going on in the world? Because there's all these different ways that we receive input, all these different ways we receive input. And in receiving input from the world around us in all these different ways that expand so far beyond, I think, that which we even know, let alone what's taboo to talk about. So expansive in the way we receive input, and then in the way we start to process it, and then the way we start to work it. I started out as a neuroscientist and studying a lot of psychology, and I was studying, physical circuitry of neurons within the brain, that form the mind, and also weaving in psychology, also, weaving in all these different kind of, shall we call, subjects that speak to how we process, how we think, where our beliefs come from. And I remember, going back all the way to a high school project, reading, Blink, Malcolm Gladwell. And in that book, him speaking to some statistic, and if I try to make up this percentage, it's going to be completely made up. This infinitesimally small percentage of like what our processing power is actually the conscious mind. Whereas the processing power of the unconscious mind in connection to the body, right? And now, more than a decade later, after studying this for more than a decade, getting to know all the different ways that our bodies process information, right? We have neural connections in our heart. We have neural connections in our guts. We have, and it doesn't just have to be neural related, right? All the different ways that all the different cells in our bodies process information, and the way that eventually gets communicated and put into action through behavior. But maybe it's not just behavior, maybe it's simply the way you radiate in a room that you're sitting in and how that impacts the world. All right, so here we have this little circuit of all the input. I say little circuit, the biggest circuit that we can imagine as connected to an individual human, but greatly simplifying it, right? We have all this input that comes in. And yes, we receive that input through our eyes, through our ears, and, we process information in that way. But we're also receiving information through our skin, right? Directly into our hearts, directly into our gut, directly into our womb, right? There's so many ways. Again, I think we're really just beginning to grasp this consciously, is all the ways that we take in information, that input from the outside. And then again, once we receive that input, all the different ways, and this is something our conscious minds are never going to be able to grasp, is the that engineering brain of mine, like wanting to put a number on it, and me just being like, not a chance to put a number on the ways that our human bodies can process that information, and can, in that processing, then turn it around into an output that then impacts the world around us. So if you're still with me here, I haven't made one of these videos in a while. Life gets chaotic again. I'm moving. When you move, you have this whole YouTube setup, and it's a lot to put it back into place, and to do it in a way that I'm not forcing myself to make these videos, but doing it from an inspired space. So that's where we're at today. It's been a little while since I've shown up in this way, but grounding back into a new version of me in a new life, really, really grounding back into a more focused devotion to coming to you in this space on YouTube. Again, I'm showing up in different places. You can find the Mountain Mystic podcast. You can find me on the We Are the Forest blog on Substack, forestbody.com, upwardslopes.com, and coming to you in all these different ways, but really wanting to bring you this video today to ground in this next seed to continue to come through you in the ways that I have in the past, consistently here on YouTube. Slightly different way, maybe a quite profoundly different way of coming to you in this space. A lot has changed, transformed, come to completion in my life since I stopped making those consistent YouTube videos. I think a little over a year ago now. No, it hasn't quite been a year. Anyway, time doesn't matter. Time has gone on since I was last coming to you here on YouTube, and in that time I've been, I graduated a priestessing programs, a temple space that I've been devoted to for years, graduating a priestessing program from there. I've been holding a New Earth priestessing circle for many months now, really focusing on the gifts that I want to bring to you, that is really truly gets to the heart of this embodiment practice. This practice, and again, I'm going to say it again, practice. Right? I am a very heady person. I love information. I love to talk about things theoretically. I like to share ideas. Love that. That's absolutely in this space. More than anything, because of the lessons I've been taught in this world, what we get to do is be in practice. Be in embodied practice. So yes, be in that meditative space. And by that word, I want to be clear, this practice of playing with where we place our attention, where we how we play with where we allow our energy to flow, right? There's this idea where you place your consciousness is where you allow your energy to flow. So we can do meditation in this sort of way where we're like up in our heads meditating here, right? We can play in meditation where we're down in our bodies, right? Placing our attention here, right? And it's this playground that I'm here to bring to you, where we get to play with our attention, our energy, our consciousness. And in doing so, be in a practice of reconnecting, of deepening back into those connections that already exist because they're not severed, they're still here. All the ways that you are connected as the whole human being that you are, in this human body that you are, and letting this be our spiritual path that unfolds. Let this be our evolutionary path that unfolds, that takes us into the present moment, into our present reality, and through this space moves us forward out of this. I always pause when it comes to the moment to describe the world we live in, because part of me wants to call it the hellish landscape that we have created here on planet Earth. And so much of that is true. And also this heaven on earth that's here already. Oh my gosh, go get outside, play. There's so much to do here on planet Earth, so much that is just ready to bring so much joy, so much excitement, so much fulfillment. It's all here, here to be enjoyed, here to be worked through. We got the full spectrum here, and we only get to experience it and move through it with skill, as I see it, as we are present in felt full connection to self, knowing that's a process, knowing that's a practice of deepening into that. Okay. Gonna leave us off there today. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you're here still with me at the end, oh my gosh, I would love to hear from you. What made you stick around? What are you receiving from this space? What would you like to hear more of? What sort of practices, what sort of conversations would you love for me to go into? Let's weave together in a way to sort of create this next version of this channel here. Awesome. You know what to do here on YouTube. Hit that like button. It helps so much. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. Again, if you're still here with me at the end, something connected, and I would love to cultivate that connection to help it grow in a way that's really serving you, your journey, your path, and your part in the greater evolution of this world we live in. All right, until next time.